It's a Friday night in 1978. Four young people are closing up a fast food restaurant in a quiet Indiana town. Nobody expected anything to go wrong. It was just another shift. By Sunday morning, all four of them were dead. Jane Fritt was 20 years old. She was the assistant manager, responsible, steady, someone her coworkers relied on. Daniel Davis was 16. Ruth Ellen Shelton was 17. Mark Flemons was 16. And here's the detail that never leaves you. He wasn't even supposed to be working that night. He was covering someone else's shift, a favor, a simple act of showing up for a friend, and it cost him his life. Their bodies were found in a forest, 20 miles from the restaurant, each one killed in a different way.
The bodies of Jane C. Fried, Mark Flemons, Daniel R. Davis, and Ruth E. Shelton have been discovered late this afternoon.
And to this day, in 2026, nobody has ever been charged with their murders. This is the story of the Burger Chef murders, one of the most haunting, most botched, most infuriating cold cases in American history. Because the tragedy isn't just what happened to these four kids, it's what happened in the hours, days, and years after. The mistakes that were made, the evidence that was destroyed, the confession that appeared and then vanished, and the suspects who died before justice could ever touch them. Stay with me. This one will stay with you. Speedway, Indiana, November 17th, 1978. A small suburban town of barely 13,000 people. Quiet streets, ordinary Friday nights. The Burger Chef restaurant at 5725 Crawfordsville Road was exactly what you'd expect. A fast food chain, nothing special. A place where teenagers picked up part-time shifts after school. On this particular Friday, 4 employees were on the closing shift: assistant manager Jane Fried and 3 teenagers, Daniel Davis, Ruth Ellen Shelton, and Mark Flemons. Closing time was 11 p.m. The shift was almost over. At midnight, an off-duty employee named Brian Kring stopped by to help close up. He walked up to the restaurant and immediately noticed something was off. He went inside, empty. Nobody there. The safe was hanging open. The cash register drawers were pulled out. 2 empty money bags and a roll of adhesive tape were sitting on the floor next to the safe. $581 was missing from the safe. But here's what didn't add up. More than $100 in coins sat untouched in the registers. Both women's purses were still there, sitting right where they'd left them. Their jackets were on their hooks. Kring called the police, and the police arrived, looked at the scene, and reached a conclusion that would haunt this case forever. No crime scene photographs were taken. The restaurant was allowed to reopen the very next morning. Employees came in and cleaned the whole place, surfaces wiped down, floors mopped. Whatever fingerprints, fibers, or trace evidence might have existed was gone, permanently. Speedway police officer Buddy Ellwanger would later admit, plainly and without excuses, "We screwed it up from the beginning." Saturday morning came. The 4 employees didn't show up, didn't call home, didn't contact anyone. Then, on Sunday afternoon, November 19th, hikers stumbled onto something in a wooded area of Johnson County, about 20 miles south of Speedway. 4 bodies lying in the trees, all 4 still wearing their Burger Chef uniforms. The investigators arrived at the scene. What they found was devastating. Daniel Davis and Ruth Ellen Shelton had been shot multiple times with a .38 caliber firearm. Jane Fried had been stabbed twice in the chest. The knife blade had snapped off inside her and was still lodged there when her body was found. Mark Flemons had been beaten, investigators believed with a chain, and died choking on his own blood. 4 victims, 4 entirely different methods of killing. And then investigators noticed something on the bodies. Money, watches, valuables, untouched. If this was a robbery, why leave everything behind? For $581. The robbery theory started to crack. This wasn't about the money. This was about something else entirely. Something personal. With the restaurant scrubbed clean and the forest scene compromised, investigators were working with almost nothing. No photographs of the original crime scene. No undisturbed physical evidence. A case built on sand. But they did have a witness. A 16-year-old who had been near the restaurant that night reported seeing two suspicious men sitting in a car outside the Burger Chef just before closing. Both white males, both in their 30s. One had a full beard. The other was clean-shaven with fair, light-colored hair. Police commissioned clay sculptors to create busts of both men from the description. The images were circulated. Nobody came forward. Investigators were convinced they had their killers. But conviction isn't evidence. 6 years pass. The case goes cold. The families of the 4 victims learn to live with not knowing. And then, in 1984, a man named Donald Forrester calls from inside Pendleton Correctional Facility. He's facing a transfer to a notoriously dangerous maximum security prison. And he wants to make a deal. Keep him where he is, and he'll tell police everything about the Burger Chef murders. Detective Mel Wilsey drives out to meet him. And what Forrester says stops him cold. Forrester claims that on the night of November 17, 1978, he and 3 other men drove to the Burger Chef with a specific purpose. Not to rob the place, but to confront Jane Freet. Her brother James owed money on a drug deal. They were there to send a message, but then Mark Fleming stepped in. The boy who wasn't even supposed to be working that night stepped forward to protect Freet. A fight broke out. Flemings fell and hit his head on the bumper of a car. The men believed he was dying, and in that moment, they made the decision to kill everyone who had witnessed what just happened. No witnesses, no loose ends. Wilsey listens to all of this, and then Forrester says things that make the detective's blood run cold. Details that had never been released to the public. He knows that the knife blade had broken off inside Jane Freet's chest. He describes the exact location and position of the bodies in the forest. He names a spot in a river where he says the gun was thrown. Police searched the river, no gun found. But when Wilsey gets a warrant to search the septic tank of a house connected to Forrester, they find spent .38 caliber shell casings, matching the caliber of the bullets that killed Davis and Shelton. This was it. After 6 years, this was the break that was supposed to close the case. And then someone inside the sheriff's office leaked the details of Forrester's cooperation. Forrester found out. Within days, he recanted everything, claimed the entire confession had been coerced, that none of it was true. No cooperation. No physical evidence strong enough to stand alone in court. No charges were ever filed. Donald Forrester died in prison in 2006 of cancer at age 55. Whatever he knew, whatever the full truth was, he took it with him. As years turned into decades, the investigation continued, quietly, persistently. Leads were followed to Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Chicago, and Dallas. None of them resulted in arrests. The 2 primary suspects, the bearded man and the fair-haired man from the witness description, eventually died. The bearded suspect died in what was ruled an apparent suicide. His associate died of a heart attack. Investigators noted with grim suspicion that both deaths came shortly after the armed robber, who had originally named them, was released from prison. Dead men can't be prosecuted. Dead men can't confess. Dead men can't be put in front of a jury. And then one final detail emerged that felt like a gut punch. Before the bearded suspect died, his own son went to police. He told them that his father, in a private moment, had confided in him that he was involved in the burger chef murders, a son turning in his own father, and still nothing. A second-hand confession is not enough. The law requires evidence you can present in a courtroom. The son told the truth. The law had nothing to work with. Detective Ken York, one of the original investigators, has never changed his position. Unless someone proves differently or someone confesses between now and then, I'll go to my deathbed believing I know who killed those kids. He believes it was the fast food robbery gang. He just can never prove it. In 2018, on the 40th anniversary of the murders, police released a photograph of the broken knife blade that had been lodged in Jane Freet's chest, hoping someone might recognize the distinctive design. Nobody came forward. Here is what we know. 4 young people were abducted while taking out the trash on a Friday night shift. They were driven 20 miles into the woods and killed 4 different ways. The crime scene was cleaned before anyone knew it was a crime scene. A confession came, complete with details nobody outside the investigation could have known, and collapsed because someone couldn't keep their mouth shut. The main suspects were identified and then died. A son told police his father confessed, and the gun, the knife handle, the chain have never been found. The burger chef murders happened in 1978. The people responsible were likely in their 30s at the time. They would be in their 80s now, if they're even still alive. The window for a courtroom conviction has almost certainly closed. What never stops being haunting about this case is one specific fact. Mark Flemons was not supposed to be there. He picked up someone else's shift. If he had stayed home that Friday night, maybe the other 3 would have survived. Or maybe not. Maybe the killers would have taken everyone regardless. We don't know. We will probably never know.